that it summarizes exactly what I feel about the situation. Look, I think that it seems the reporter wasn't on the up and up. She's got plenty of flaws in her game and how she writes and maybe even what she was reporting. But there are some undeniable issues at Auburn right now. But as you point out, there are issues everywhere.
Yeah, there are issues everywhere. I mean, look at what the NCAA is dealing with at the moment. You got Miami right now that, as of a day ago, they're trying to get their entire case thrown out so the NCAA can't impose sanctions on them. That won't end up flying. You look at Oregon right now. Oregon says, we didn't commit a major violation. NCAA says, yeah, you did. So they're going to discuss it more. I don't know what necessarily there is to discuss, but, like you were talking about, get someone in there that's either going to investigate this stuff from a neutral standpoint, or you just stop. Just stop worrying about it and find some other avenue to clean this up.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. You look at Ohio State. I mean, this past year, they go undefeated, on probation, can't go to a bowl game. I know in 2002, Alabama won the SEC West, but couldn't go to a bowl game. Maybe that team would have easily had a shot to play for the SEC title. In 1993, Auburn went undefeated, went 11-0. They won the SEC West. They didn't get a shot to play for it. Now, that particular team, going back that far, they weren't on TV, but that's really when the TV bans kind of ended. And it seems to me, really, what was Ohio State's punishment? Yes, I mean, you could make the case they didn't get to play Alabama for the national championship or Notre Dame or whoever. But I think that if they had played Alabama, it would have been about like the Notre Dame game. Really, I think Ohio State came out okay being on probation, and something seems wrong about that. What else can you do? I think maybe taking TV away again is a viable option because you got to hit them in the pocketbook.
I agree with you, but one thing that's important to note is that the NCAA, football is the only sport that the NCAA does not officially recognize a national champion. So there's sort of a weird parallel that the NCAA can punish teams in a sport that they don't officially recognize a champion. So as far as the Ohio State situation goes, Ohio State's probably one of the angriest fan bases, and I live up here in the Midwest, and I mostly cover Auburn. Why is this taking so long? North Carolina. Why is North Carolina releasing stuff after an NCAA investigation that clearly wasn't thorough enough that would have gotten them hammered? Why did USC take 5 years, yet Penn State took,
10 minutes.
A year or so?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of inconsistencies in the timing, and I think that's what makes people more irritated than anything else.
No, I totally agree. And I think, in a sense, Ohio State fans have a point. It does seem like that they were punished pretty severely for lesser charges. But you know what? I go back to Ohio State and say, hey, you're the same program that basically got to skate on Maurice Clarett because the NCAA couldn't get him on the phone. So I'm really not feeling too sorry for him. But again, if I'm an Ohio State fan or if I'm a Penn State fan, really, Penn State fans to me have the biggest gripe. I feel like they were unduly punished for something that was, for the most part, not related to any type of competitive advantage. And they really took the hammer. And they look at a situation, you go back to Cam Newton, you can say what you want, and, Cam Newton was a fantastic player. But, if I'm a Penn State fan, especially, I'm saying, hey, I don't understand why they have nothing and we get the hammer dropped on us for something that wasn't a competitive advantage.
Well, I guess it's all how you spin it. I would say that it did give Penn State a competitive advantage in the sense that by covering all this up, you've seen the mass exodus of players immediately when all the information came out. You saw a lot of the reaction from recruits who all of a sudden were going elsewhere. I think it gave a competitive advantage in the fact that had players known about this a decade ago, a lot of them wouldn't have gone there. And by covering it up, it allowed them to recruit student athletes that otherwise might not have gone there because they were worried about the stigma of being at this university for this reason. I know Penn State did well last year. I think Bill O'Brien's a great coach. However, I think you'll see, like USC, you'll see their fall off 2, 3, 4 years down the road, and it'll be pretty tough for them. So I don't know. I feel like the Auburn situation with Cam Newton was an awful lot different. I'm not saying the NCAA did a great job in either, but one thing I did like about what the Penn State situation was is, like I said in the article, hire a neutral firm that has absolutely no biases toward one way or the other in what the ruling will be, and let those guys investigate it rather than have people that have a vested interest in one side winning investigate these types of things. You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally understand. I think that there's enough, the NCAA is making enough money where they can hire an outside firm like this. And again,
Absolutely.
Punish the people that need to be punished. And you're going to have to do it. The only way you're going to really punish any of these programs from doing anything illegal is to hit them in the pocketbooks. Ohio State probably did just as well last year as they would have practically any other year, and maybe they shouldn't have been punished as severely as they were. That argument can be made, but once they were punished, I don't think the punishment was all that severe at all. And also, even as an Alabama fan, I'm really kind of tired of the Cam Newton stuff or spice stuff. I see kind of where some of this is going. It does seem like some people are out there to paint Auburn in a certain light. Maybe there's some vendettas, I don't know. But I'm ready for an organization like the NCAA, who's supposed to be the parent of all these programs, to come out and say, hey, this is dead in the water, forget talking about it. But it seems like they're always a little hesitant to ever say an investigation is truly dead.
Well, I'm going to throw two things out at you. The first one is I was on Dan Dockich's show in Indianapolis last year, and I asked him, I said, what exactly does the NCAA need to legitimize whether or not they want to look into something to investigate it? And he said that basically you're talking about a rumor. They can get a rumor, and if they feel like it has some teeth to it, they can look into it more, and there it goes. So it can be something as simple as, Jimmy saying Illinois football player over there is getting a free car, and the NCAA could decide to look into it or not decide to look into it. That's one part of it. The other part of it that frustrates me, at least from the Auburn perspective, is when I read originally Selena Roberts' article, I was thinking, man, this is some really bad stuff. Then the denials came out. Then a couple more denials came out. Of course that stuff's going to happen. I'm not saying Auburn guys are going to go out there and say, oh, yeah, we're cheating and fixing grades a whole lot. The thing that bothered me the most is when she went out and refused to release the tapes. I've covered government, I've covered stuff that's a lot headier than sports. I tape everything, and I have no problem releasing it. And I thought I thought it gave Auburn fans or people at Auburn a little more ammunition to say, you know what, we're not doing this stuff. This stuff is false. It's obvious because this person's hesitant about releasing the tapes. And I think that in itself has made either A, held the NCAA off from investigating further, or B, given the Auburn community an awful lot more grist for the mill that they're just being unfairly picked on.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? It's a lot like Jose Canseco saying everybody in Major League Baseball is juicing. He may be right, and Selena Roberts may be right, but it's hard to deny the fact that she seems to have a vendetta or have some kind of problem with Auburn overall, and then you look at her history with them, it's almost hard to believe anything she says, especially if you go back to the Duke lacrosse thing. Again, just like Jose Canseco, he may be right. It's just so hard to believe him, and you don't like him, so you don't want to believe him.
Well, I just don't understand why you don't. I don't think that there's any lack of journalistic integrity. And I go back about a year ago, I had a government official contact me and said, hey, I was misquoted in an article you wrote, and I told him, hey, I tape everything. You're more than welcome to come in tomorrow, listen to the tape with me, and we'll talk about what I misquoted you at. All of a sudden, it changed to, no, I don't think I need to do that. I just didn't feel like you captured the tone correctly. I think if you really have something and you want to stand by your work, in my opinion, if somebody challenges you on your work as a professional, you should have no problem putting that out there. And who knows what the NCAA is going to do? In my opinion, if it's just a rumor that can get the NCAA to look into something, which is essentially what all these investigations start out as to begin with, this is something that maybe they should look into. And I think anyone would agree with that. So the point of my article was everyone's wrong in this situation. It looks like Auburn's guilty, but at this point, even if they do try to prove it, who on earth are you going to believe?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that's the whole key is everybody's so wrong, you just want the whole thing to go away.
Absolutely. And I would, again, hire people. I looked at the NCAA investigator, what you would need to become an NCAA investigator before I came on the show with you guys. And a investigative background is encouraged but not necessarily required. Well, we're talking about multi-million-dollar organizations here, billions really. And I think there needs to be definite accountability with who is hired, what kind of background they have, and the punishment. You're absolutely right, and I've argued this for years. Punishment needs to fit the crime. The only way you're going to hurt these institutions is A, taking away their bowl money for being in a conference, and B, taking away their television appearances, and or taking away their television money, because that stuff hurts recruiting, and it hurts you more than just that week or that year. And until they start doing that, the NCAA is afraid to, because people watch Ohio State, people watch Alabama, people watch Auburn. They turn it on to watch those teams. The NCAA doesn't want to lose those viewers and those advertisers, so they're reticent to hand down those sanctions. But I think you're absolutely right. If you really want to fix college sports, hit it where it hurts, and right now it's just a money game.
And then the thing we've really glossed over is the fact that even if all this gets reported to NCAA and we put it all in their hands, we found out very recently with the Miami case that they aren't the most ethical institution in the world either. So, I mean, really, we thought at first everybody's wrong. Now we know everybody's wrong.
The Miami case is just a huge black eye, because you not only have them. There was a point when the investigator who was fired, Nahir, he actually had written about hiring Nevin Shapiro, the kind of the eye of the hurricane, pun intended, for this entire Miami investigation. Later on, to talk about the risk to the boosters and things like that, then he's trying to hire the attorney to quote unquote give them an indirect subpoena power, because the NCAA doesn't have subpoena power, and get the answers to questions they otherwise wouldn't have. I mean, if the organization itself is conducting an investigation on ethics and they're not using ethics, I mean, is the system right? How do you fix it? And does the NCAA at this point have authority? Because all that came out of that was, we're going to throw one or two people under the bus, act like those were the only two people doing it, and we're going to go on about our merry way. But at this point, no one really believes that.
Yeah, it's really wild, and I don't think it's gotten enough attention just yet, Bart, but hopefully guys like you out there will expose some of this, and maybe we can clean this up a little bit. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's interesting stuff. It's a great article, and we really appreciate you being on the Dane Sharp Hotline tonight. I
really appreciate you having me on. You guys have a wonderful night, and thanks again.
We'll talk to you again sometime, Bart.
Thank you. Hope so.
That was Bart Doan from collegefootballnews.com joining us on the Dane Sharp Hotline. Interesting stuff, and I think that, again, he speaks for all of us in terms of the amount of frustration we have with, as much as we love college athletics, I think we all know there is an underbelly to this thing that is not very pretty, and we really would like to see it cleaned up in the end.